I will now take the sediment for this meeting of the Social Work Resources Committee of 6 December 2023. Councillor Ali Callison is present. We have apologies from Councillor John Bradley. The following members are present: Councillors Walter Brogan, Robert Brown, Archie Buchanan, Matthew Buchanan, Janine Kalikis, Maureen Devlin, Mary Donnelly. We have apologies from Councillor Joe Fagan. Councillors Alan Faulkner and Elise Frame are present. We have apologies from Councillor Shalene Handybod. Councillor Margaret Cowie is attending as a substitute. Councillor Graham Horn is present. We have apologies from Councillor Mark Horsham and Councillor Martin Hose. Councillor Aileen Logan is present. Councillor Hugh MacDonald is not present. Councillors Catherine McClyman and Richard Nelson are present. Councillor Carol Nugent is not present. Councillor John Ross is not present. And the four members are present: Councillors Graham Scott, Margaret B. Walker, David Watson and Kirsty Williams. Thank you, and I will now pass you back to the Chair for today's business.
Thanks, Stuart. I'm moving on to item 1. Any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting, and that's pages 5 to 10. Oh, sorry, apparently there's 2 people requesting to speak. Elise?
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, mine was to come in previously. It was just to let you know that Councillor John Ross and Councillor Carol Nugent are having IT issues, and can somebody send Councillor John Ross another Confero invite? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Elise. Stuart will do that. Richard Lockhart?
So I'm standing in for Councillor Martin Hose.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Lockhart. Okay, item 2, minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 10. Do members agree those are correct records of the meeting? Agreed? Okay, thank you. Moving on to monitoring items. Item 3 is the Revenue Budget Monitoring 2023 to 2024, and it's for the period 1st of April to 6th of October 2023, and it's pages 11 to 18 in your pack. And could I ask Graham Booth to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of the report, which is on pages 11 to 18 of your papers, is to provide information on actual expenditure against budget for social work resources for the period 1st April to 6th of October 2023, and to provide a forecast for the year to 31st of March 2024. This is the third revenue monitoring report to committee this financial year. Section 5 on pages 11 and 12 outline the financial position to 6th of October, with the resource report in a break-even position. As reported to previous committees, sections 5.2 to 5.5 note that within Children and Family Services, 9.2 million of one-off funding is available to contribute towards budget pressures this financial year. The period 7 overspend position to the 6th of October on Children and Families assumes this funding being available and is currently being managed by an underspend on performance and support and justice services. Sections 5.6 and 5.7 outline the current position in relation to adults and older people services. The outcome of the job evaluation exercise for home carers will result in recurring costs of 7 million from 23-24, and as at 6th of October, 3 million has been incurred in relation to the cost of the grade changes. Officers within the IJB have been looking to identify recurring funding solutions, and these solutions and an overall recovery plan were agreed by the IJB on 18th of October 2023. As such, budgets will now be realigned as required to reflect this agreement. Appendices A to E on pages 14 to 18 provide details on the period 7 position, and detailed variance explanations and proposed variants for each of the services are shown in appendices B to E. I refer members back to section 2 of the report. The committee is asked to note the position as at 6 October 2023, note the forecast position to 31st of March 2024, and to approve the proposed budget variants. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Are there any questions, comments for Graham? No. Do we agree? Sorry. Do we agree to the recommendations, section 2 of the report? Agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 4 is capital budget monitoring 2023 to 2024, and that's for the period 1st of April to 6th of October 2023, and it's pages 19 to 22. Could I ask Lorraine O'Hagan to speak to the report, please?
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Committee. This is the standard capital budget monitoring report. Again, it's the third report for the financial year, and again, similar to revenue, it reflects the budget and spend position to the 6th of October, which is our accounting period 7. Section 3 on page 19 gives you the background and advises that the budget reported to the last Social Work Committee in September was 2.030 million, and we have had no adjustments to that budget since that last committee. So Section 5 then takes you on to the substantive part of the paper in terms of the financial implications, and Section 5.1 notes the total capital programme of the 2.030 million. Section 5.2 then goes on to give the period 7 position, and it notes that anticipated spend was 1.118 million, with an actual spend incurred to the 6th of October of 1.251 million. So we're overspending at that point in time, or ahead of profile is probably more appropriate, of £133,000, and that just simply reflects the timing of payments for data migration on the Swiss Plus replacement project, and it is a timing issue only. The position is noted in Appendix A in your papers, which I think is on page 21. The projects are progressing well, and I've got no issues to highlight to committee. So if I can refer you back to the recommendations in Section 2, and ask that the social work resources budget of 2.030 and the spend to the 6th of October of 1.251 million be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. I don't see any questions. Do we agree to recommendation 2 in the report? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, it's the Workforce Monitoring Report, August to September 2023. That's pages 23 to 30 in your report. And could I ask Eileen McPake to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thank you. This is the standard Social Work Resources Workforce Monitoring Report covering the period August to September 2023. So section 4.1 outlines the attendance statistics for committee, and the details are in Appendix 1. So the absence rate for the resource for September was 6.8% compared to a council-wide figure of 5.3%. This is increased by 0.8% compared to the previous month, and compared to the same period last year, the figure has decreased by 0.3%. There is a projected annual average for the resource of 7.1% compared to a council-wide figure of 5.5%. The resource managers continue to follow the maximising attendance procedures and work with personnel colleagues to ensure that all the supports are in place to enable employees to return to work and that appropriate actions are taken. And this is demonstrated by a consistent reduction in absence rates compared to the same period last year. Section 4.2 to 4.5, the details are in Appendix 2, and the main points are that during the period there was 243 occupational health referrals, there was 3 disciplinary hearings, there was no grievances or dignity at work issues raised during the period, there was 23 accidents incidents recorded during the period, and there was 23 leavers, and of them 46% completed exit interviews. The details of vacant posts are in Appendix 2A, and there was 32.41 posts that became vacant during the period, and managers indicated that 30 of these will be filled and 2 were held pending a review of service requirements. And I'll refer committee back to section 2 and ask that the workforce monitoring information for social work resources for the period August to September 2023 be noted.
Thanks, Eileen. I don't see any questions. Sorry, Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Chair. The absence levels still continue extremely high. Committee after committee, not just in social work, we get the same sort of story about, trying to maximise attendance, but the pattern here is not attractive. What work out with the normal course of work are we doing to get this down? And has there been any analysis done of people going off with stress and other issues because of the high levels of other colleagues off on the sick and high levels of vacancies? Because my understanding that could be a contributing factor to what's going on here. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Eileen, do you want to respond to that?
We do continue to look at absence rates across the whole council, as you're aware. The council has recently appointed a new occupational health provider, and as that there is some enhanced support in terms of people that are absent or experiencing some mental health problems. There's a new app from PAM Assist, and as I say, that's got some enhanced supports, some of which including offering sort of in-the-moment counselling for not only for employees but also for family and friends. There's also a number of tools and webinars that are accessible via the app, and that was communicated via a management bulletin and a personnel circular during October. I think as we get to grips with the new occupational health provider, we should hope to see some improvements, certainly in terms of making sure people are getting support more quickly, and that should hopefully help to impact. But we do continue to look at what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Eileen. Don't see any other questions. Do we agree to the recommendations in section 2 of the report? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 6 is the Social Work Resources Plan Q4 Progress Report 2022 to 2023, and that's pages 31 to 56 in your pack. And could I ask Craig to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the background to the report is provided in section 3, whilst in section 4 we note the actions of social work resources to support the wider Council Connect outcomes, and those are provided in greater detail in Appendix 1. Section 5 then contains a summary of progress against all measures, and again these are detailed in Appendix 2. However, a number of the key outcomes are highlighted at 5.3.1. 2 or 3, just to bring to members' attention, include the 22% increase in the number of carers that we are providing support to, and the work of the self-directed support team in being able to review and support those packages of care. We've also noted within there the very positive report we had in relation to adult support and protection. Moving on to 5.4, we highlight the 2 areas where further improvement is required, namely the percentage of people on community payback who are seen within 5 working days, and you'll see that we are currently at 69% against the 75% target. The other area is the percentage of people starting their placement within 7 days, and again we are 67% against the 75% target, albeit you'll note from the report that in the last quarter we were far more, we were actually in line with the 75% target. In 5.5 we provided more detail on measures that have changed, and again we've provided the detail of that in Appendix 3. And finally, I would take you back to paragraph 2 and the recommendations therein, and we'd be happy to take any further questions.
Thank you, Craig. I have a question from seat 34. Robert, sorry, are you seat 34?
Yeah. I was going to ask about, I've lost the particular reference now. There's a reference to Pan-Lanarkshire services for young people in care, avoiding them getting into folks. I just wanted to ask if the Pan-Lanarkshire included Rutherglen and Cambuslang. I've lost the reference, unfortunately, as that's what I was looking for there. It's about page, yeah, it's at page 44, Young Carers Service. No, it's not, that's the wrong bit. Children. The reason I asked that, there's been an issue, I think, before of things with courts and things which have been Hamilton-based, not Rutherglen and Cambuslang. And I just wanted to clarify that the services provided here went right across Lanarkshire, not just, if you like, the non-Rutherglen and Cambuslang bits.
Sorry, I think...
Yeah, so I have found it's page 35, I hadn't marked it properly.
Yeah, so So the report will cover South Lanarkshire wide.
Yeah.
And if needs be, what we can do is we can get our colleagues to give some additional information specifically on what's happening in Cambuslang, Rutherglen, if you would find that helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you very much. Sorry for the misunderstanding there.
Okay. I don't see any more questions, comments. Do we agree to recommendations 2 in the report?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving on, item 7 is the update of the 2022-23 Risk Register and Risk Control Plan, and that's pages 57 to 70. And could I ask Craig to speak to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So again, you'll see the background provided to the risk strategy at section 3 of the report, while section 4 lists the top risks of the resource, namely workforce, public protection and legislative responsibilities, market and provider capacity, funding pressures, and you'll see we've added winter demand in there as well. 4.2 also highlights an additional risk now associated with standards, scrutiny levels or improvement, and this is specifically related to the forthcoming introduction of the Health and Care Staffing Scotland Act 2019, insofar as it applies to social work services. At paragraph 4.5, we have provided the range of risks that are associated with the wider work of the service, and at 4.8 we've highlighted the current risk profile. We've also noted at 5.3 and 5.4 the council risks that also impact upon the work of the service, and again I would take members back to the recommendations in paragraph 2 and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Craig. Are there any questions, comments? No? Do people agree to recommendation 2 in the report? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to items for decision. Item 8, keeping the promise funding, youth and justice rights. It's pages 71 to 74. And could I ask Liam to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. This report is an update, or it's to the committee on a successful bid that we had with the Cora Fund, and it was the Promise Round 2 bids for youth justice and rights. You'll see section 3 gives background to the independent care review, which is a driver for this, and we've visited this before, but just to repeat that we've got 2 strategic arms which look at the promise and its delivery. We've got the Champions Board, which is about seeking young people's views, and it's care experienced young people that are members of that Champions Board. And we have the Promise Oversight Board, which is senior leaders within the council, and that's to ensure that there's a commitment to the promise. You'll see at 3.2 that there is a national commitment to address the disproportionate number of young people who are care experienced that enter the justice system. And you'll see at the bullet points at 3.2 some of the successful improvements that we've delivered to date. One of the gaps we've identified is young people who are stigmatised or will be criminalised with what we call non-familial harm, and that's young people at risk of child sexual exploitation or at risk of being criminalised in the community. And the bid was a focus to look at how we would address that. As you'll see, section 4, we're looking at the Cora bid for the youth justice. You'll see within section 4 that it's a 3-party bid that we put in. It's in partnership with COVI, one of the third sector providers. It's the University of the West of Scotland who will do an evaluation of the project independently, and it's with South Lanarkshire Council. You'll see for this report what we're looking for is we've successful in receiving funding of £150,000, and it's £90,000 for COVI, £30,000 for the University West of Scotland and £30,000 for South Lanarkshire Council. In section 5 you'll see what we're looking to do is use the £30,000 for a 0.5 team leader who will undertake the strategic and the partnership the coordination of the project over the 18 months. And then at the end of that, we'll look at how we can deliver contextual safeguarding across South Lanarkshire. So if I can refer committee members back to the recommendations, it's 2, and it's just to note the grant funding that's been allocated, but also to approve the 0.5 team leader post for a period of 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Robert?
Can I welcome the report, But can I ask you about the team leader post, if I may? It's a fixed term, half post actually that's been put forward here. Given the recruitment problems that you've got, how easy is it going to be to recruit such a post? And is the 0.5, if you like, tied with something else to make a full-time post? How is it going to operate in practice?
Councillor, what we're doing is we know it's going to be difficult, so we're going to backfill that post with a current team leader and give that as part of their responsibilities, and it will also be aligned to the young person service. So the post will almost be seen as full-time, but 0.5 of it will be dedicated to the promise.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. Could I also welcome the report? I think it would be really interesting if we could maybe have it come back at some point to committee and look at some of the impact in relation to the new post, because obviously this is a very vulnerable sort of section in terms of young people, so that would be really useful to maybe review it every so often. Thank you. Do we agree to section 2 recommendations in the report? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 9, enhancing trauma recovery capacity, and it's pages 75 to 78. And could I ask Liam to speak to the report again? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Committee, this is a report. The purpose of the report is to update on trauma-informed practice across South Lanarkshire. You'll see the recommendations we're looking for is to note the contents of the report, but also to approve the post at Section 5. Section 3 gives a background to the Scottish Government and COSLA's ambition that the Scottish workforce should be trauma-informed and capable of recognising trauma, not only in the workforce, but people with trauma and adversity. 3.2 highlights the Scottish funding commitment to this of £15 million per annum to local authorities, and South Lanarkshire gets £840,000 per year for this to deliver trauma-informed or to deliver community mental health and wellbeing. Section 3.3 just gives a background to the redesign which we undertook about family support services, and it's quite important because this is now our front door approach to family support, and it's in partnership with the third sector and with the Health Board as well, or the Health and Social Care Partnership. So that's how we're looking to deliver that. And we developed a reflective practice coordinator which supports staff to deal with trauma, but also to make them aware of how they should deal with people with trauma. What we identified was there was a gap in dealing with or supporting young people and families who were exposed to trauma in their life. And these were young people and families who don't quite hit the threshold of a CAMHS referral, but are no doubt going through trauma in their own existence. So what we're looking to do is develop a trauma recovery counsellor that will deal direct with families and with the young people direct. So we're looking in terms of the employee implications for that. They're identified at 5.1, and the financial implications is this will come from the £840,000, the Children and Young People's Community Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund, and we have financial capacity within that. So we're looking for the committee to approve the post at 5.1 within the report, and to note the developments with regards to trauma recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. I don't see any questions. Could I just welcome the report? I mean, obviously this is part of a whole sort of range of measures which had been developed in relation to trying to ease the situation in relation to the demand in CAMHS. So it kind of goes hand in hand with all of the measures and posts in terms of counselling that are available in schools as well. So hopefully this will be a positive addition to that, and will obviously continue to increase the numbers of young people that are being able to access mental health services, whether at the trauma level or prevention level, which hopefully, as I say, will have the overall impact on easing the pressures on CAMHS and making sure that people with more complex needs actually are able to access that. So I think that's very positive from that point of view. So I don't see any questions. Are we agreeable to recommendation 2 in the report? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on, items for noting, planning for winter 2023-24, and it's pages 79 to 88. And could I ask Craig to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of this report, members will note that Throughout the report, we have highlighted how this is very much a whole system approach across Lanarkshire. It involves both councils, both health and social care partnerships and IGBs, as well as NHS Lanarkshire itself. It also includes partners like the Scottish Ambulance Service and indeed the Regional Local Resilience Partnership colleagues. It builds on the debrief from the winter plan of 22-23. It also includes reference to a self-assessment that was undertaken for winter 23-24, as well as national workshops, subsequent national guidance, which we received at the 28th of October, and also ongoing work associated with Operation Flow, and I'll mention that a wee bit further on. As part of our winter planning, we also test our business continuity plans, and we had a very successful event actually next door on the 8th of November, which was facilitated by our local resilience partnership. Again, a multi-agency event, and that was based around the potential impact of significant flooding, all of which is very pertinent given recent weather events. I mentioned highlighting Operation Flow, and that's given more detail at 4.22 in the report. And this basically picks up work that's happening predominantly across the 3 acute hospitals, but also including the 2 health and social care partnerships and our community hospitals, and is aimed at maximising flow through the system. We had a recent firebreak week, week commencing the 20th of November, and that allowed us to review the care of all those in the hospital who had been there for more than 14 days, to make sure that as far as possible we had plans to support the individuals' safe discharges. And again, that's had a positive impact as part of that process. That will continually be monitored throughout the winter period. You'll also note that, again, this year, Lanarkshire is unique in Scotland in having our GPs been asked if they are prepared to open their doors on the 26th of December, the 2nd of January, and also on the Saturdays throughout January. And that would also be supported by local pharmacists. And I'm very pleased to say that we've got around 60% of our GPs who will participate in those events or those schemes at some stage across the winter period. And obviously we then make that information available to NHS 24, out of hours, and our Flow Navigation Centre, such that MD who would otherwise have pitched up at a hospital can be seen by their own GP. You'll also see the significant work being undertaken as part of the vaccination programme, and that is a major plank in our preventative strategy to try and keep both our population and staff healthy over the winter. And we recognise we've still got a bit of a way to go, so even though we're around about the national average, it's still a reduced number that has been the case in previous years, and there's work ongoing over the next 3 weeks to really promote that, offer drop-in services for the population and staff across Lanarkshire. One of the other things that's happening this year is that a number of the vaccination staff will transfer at the end of December across to support work in the 3 district general hospitals, recognising the importance of flow through the hospitals at that time. I would just want to leave members with a note of caution in that we know that winter is a very unpredictable time. So whilst we do know that there will be additional demand, there's also unpredictability associated with things like viral infections, whether that be flu, COVID, or other winter virus illnesses. There's also the potential impact on staff attendance. There's the impact of inclement weather, all of which is impossible to predict. But what we therefore need to do is to make sure we've got plans that are flexible to allow us to respond accordingly. And we've also got a number of early warning signs in place so that if we do become aware of any of these things emerging, then we can work towards making sure that we've got the necessary steps in place. And just finally, part of the plan specifically for this committee includes a number of staff that we'll have available to us to continue to support discharges and assessments across the peak period in winter, such that again we're able to maximise as many people who can be safely managed in their own homes, or certainly get them home from hospital as is early and as safe to do so. And I would take members back to the recommendations in section 2 and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Craig. Alan?
Thanks, Chairs. Just a couple of questions on page 81 regarding discharge without delay 4.3.1. I've experienced lately a couple of totally inappropriate discharges, as have some of my colleagues. For one example, a 95-year-old gentleman who's registered blind, who's an ex-MSP, referred him to me, sent home without a care package, sent out to hospital without a COVID check, though he'd been isolated for COVID. And when the private sector worker arrived at his house, he didn't know the key safe, he didn't know the guy had COVID, he didn't know what he's expected to do. And I'm quite concerned that the discharge without delay, we're maybe experiencing a lot of inappropriate discharges. I have another question to add, Chair, after that.
So if you give me the details of that individually, I'll happily pick it up. Obviously, I don't know the details of individuals, but in general, what I can say is that we have got an assessment process that should make sure that those things are well known. We do something called a planned date of discharge, so that the multidisciplinary team within the ward, supported by our own social work staff, can get that information and share it such that the discharge is safe. If there is an issue like this, and undoubtedly there will be the odd occasion where things like that happen, then we'd want to hear about it as quickly as we can so that we can put the necessary remedial steps in place.
Just on, can I answer that, Chair? This particular case, I phoned the Hamilton manager who was off on a Friday, and the telephonist says, I'll give you somebody else, and it was the admin worker she was giving me. Which I find shocking.
Alan, sorry, can I just interrupt? You're kind of getting into the specific details of that case. I think it would maybe be more appropriate if you maybe spoke to Craig afterwards, and as he's offered to do, he can look into that, because that's obviously an instance here where it's not worked in relation to the pre-planning discharge measures that are all in place. So it is important that we know about that. But if you could actually deal with that specific case out with the meeting, I think that would be more appropriate. Did you have another question concerning something?
I respect your decision there, Chair, but I've got to say it's not the only one. The other one was in regard to Home First. And you mentioned North Lanarkshire here. As we know, we've got the hub in Blantyre, which the latest figure tells me there's 17 people in there. How does that comply with Home First? So they're assessed physically fit for discharge for hospital, and then we're taking them to the Blantyre hub, where our partners in North Lanarkshire are now taking them straight home, where they can furniture walk, as you adequately described the other night, within an environment they know what is.
So the process is to identify those people who would benefit from an intense period of rehabilitation and support. And we're finding that that is working in supporting people who may otherwise end up in a care home, being able to be managed independently in their own home. Old people continually tell us that as far as possible, they want to remain independent as safely as they can in their own home. And what the facility at Blantyre is doing is allowing us to work intensively with those individuals to do that. It's also allowing us to share a range of other technologies that can be brought to bear across the wider population, again to support that concept of allowing and supporting older people to be able to remain independently at home as long as they can. We've always sought to ensure that where people can go home safely, they will go home, but we recognise that there is a proportion where if they get that additional intensive support, it can make the difference between them being able to go home and not have to go into a care home. And that's what we're looking to try and make sure is working. In terms of the numbers that are there, you'll have seen the numbers growing exponentially as the staff bed in, as the services bed in, and folk get to understand the types of individuals that are involved, and we're working towards making sure that's operating at full capacity to make sure we're meeting that demand. And again, we want to make that available to everybody in South Lanarkshire that's able to access it.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just on that, Alan, obviously we will be, through the IGB, we've asked for the review and the evaluation information in relation to the service, because obviously that's going to be really, really interesting and informative information in terms of how we, move forward in relation to those, types of service models and others when we're developing the strategic commissioning plan and also looking at the progressive housing strategy. So I think, Suman, you had said in spring the review and evaluation of Blantyre would be available, and that would go to this committee as well, wouldn't it? So I think that will kind of answer a lot of the issues that you've raised recently in terms of Blantyre. So I've got Elise Frame.
Hi, thanks very much, Chair. My question is just about the delayed discharge. I'm just looking to see if we could get more information to this committee with a percentage of delayed discharges that people waiting for care packages and staying in hospital delayed because of waiting for care packages, and also people who have care packages, when they go into hospital, these care packages get stopped, and when they're ready for discharge, they're delayed coming back out because we've not got the carers to then provide the care packages again. So I'm looking for more information on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we can provide more information around that if that would be helpful. We do daily reviews of all the delays we've got within the hospitals. We're doing a range of work just now with our acute colleagues to try and make sure we're getting that planned date of discharge that I was talking about earlier more embedded and working the way that it's intended to work. We're also aware that there's something of a mismatch in terms of the number of referrals that we are receiving. Again, this is a similar issue in North Lanarkshire, so there's work we're doing to try and benchmark across the different hospitals around the numbers that are referred. Part of the process of planned date of discharge is that if we can identify at the time of admission that somebody is going to be in and out the hospital within 24, 48, maybe even 72 hours, then that allows us to make sure that the care package is retained. However, if the person is going to be in the hospital indefinitely, then that care package is able to be released to be made available to support someone else. And what we'd look to do then is to make sure that having the planned date of discharge in for when the person is due to be discharged, we can make sure we've got a package in place to support that as well. This is an area that is very much part of that operation flow exercise I touched on earlier, and both health and social care partnerships are doing a range of things to try and make sure that we are continuing to do that. I think it's fair to say that when we look at our delayed discharges, we are round about the Scottish average in terms of our instance of delays, and we are working hard to try and make sure we're below the Scottish average. But as things stand at the minute, that's roughly where we're at.
Thanks, Craig. You happy with that, Elise? Yep. Eileen?
Thanks very much, Chair. This wasn't my question, but just on that part, could I ask something? I'm assuming as well the fact that the great shortage of money that we're all experiencing doesn't help the situation either, because you're having to play, sometimes God with where you put your money and what you do and how we can put in staff and how we can do different things. So whilst it's difficult if people are getting their care package taken away, I understand the 24 hours up to 72, it would remain, I understand that. But through personal experience, not myself, but of people that I was dealing with, it then released up care packages for people in a queue. So it's not just as simple as just saying this, that or the other. The acute amount of cash that we're short, and we sit in a committee, Margaret, myself, Councillor Frame, and we know what's happening. So it's a whole big package, and maybe again we should be going back to the Scottish Government as well. I know you do, but maybe as a council to explain really and truly this is getting very, very difficult. But I have something else I wanted to ask. That was only because that was raised in the first place.
Yeah, so absolutely, Councillor Logan, we're very aware that the funding crisis that we're facing will result in our having to change services and in some cases reduce the number of services that we're able to provide, and in some cases completely close some of the services that we're currently providing. I'm afraid that's an inevitability when we're over £20 million short for the coming financial year. What I would say, however, is that some of the work that we are doing is allowing us to deliver services in a different way but more effectively. So if you look at something like Home First, what we're doing there is that we're getting in and assessing people's needs in their own homes, and that's identifying that when we do that assessment in the person's own home, it's freeing up somewhere between 30 and 40% of what might have been the assessed need when the person was in an unfamiliar environment, which is a hospital-type setting. Going back to the bit around the joint work we're doing with acute, one of the other things we're finding is that a number of people's discharge is being suspended on the day or within 24 hours before the discharge was planned. We've obviously got a package of care mobilised to provide that. So our colleagues in acute are working with us to see if there are some of those patients where an outpatient appointment or therapy in their own home could have averted the discharge being avoided. And again, that would allow us to be using our care at home services more efficiently than has been allowed to be done up to now. So we're very aware that we've got very challenging financial position, but we're also aware that we need to try and therefore transform the way we provide care such that we're trying to do as much as we can. Having said all that, the message that I know the chief officers, ourselves, are giving back to colleagues in Scottish Government is that you cannot expect to be able to deliver the same level of service with such a reduced level of finance.
Correct. This was my original question. Sorry, Chair. It was going back to the uptake of the vaccinations. Thanks very much. Couldn't think of the word there. How do we get that out? And I know we've got campaigns, but it's actually it's information to get to people to tell them. On the radio, one of the mornings there, there was a thing come up about there might be new COVID strains in China, or I think it was China, and China was denying it, and the usual stuff that you get. But it makes you think, well, you could be getting away with another, virus coming in that you don't maybe, or we, the country doesn't particularly know about at the time. So people, in my opinion, are becoming a wee bit complacent, some of them, and it's to try and keep pushing out the information. And it actually then leads on to the information part. What you were saying there about Home First, I think we need to push the information as well, if we can, to people. Because just anecdotally, but I was speaking to two people who thought that was a great idea because the time or times before when their parent was in the hospital, they were asked, can you walk up a wee step or something in the hospital? But they weren't seeing them in their actual environment. And seeing them in their actual environment then meant, oh, what about this? And move this, do this. Put a wee one wee handrail or two, whatever it was, made a great deal of difference. So people are, rightly so, it's a loved person, are a wee bit resistant if it's a change. But if we can explain the change a wee bit better and say, well, in actual fact, this might actually enhance what we can do, what we will do, and then make people safer without this to and froing. So I could actually take you to two people who think that was a very good idea. So it's and overall, it's the getting it out to people. I think that's important.
So, taking those 2 points in turn, There's no doubt that there is something creeping in called vaccination fatigue, where people are now positively saying, I think I've been vaccinated enough and I don't want to be vaccinated again. And nationally, there's comms messages around that because, as you say, getting vaccinated every year or every 6 months, depending on your eligibility, does make a difference. Specifically around flu, it's a different vaccination you get every year. So the more times you're vaccinated, the more likelihood is that you're going to be resistant to the strain that comes along. So it is really important that people continue to get their vaccines. We're doing a big push around the comms at the moment. We're going to have the notices on all the laptops. When people open their emails in the morning, they'll get a message around that. And we're also doing some stuff around our social media, again, pushing the whole thought around drop-ins as well. We're also doing work to try and really encourage our staff uptake. Even before COVID, staff uptake in Lanarkshire was, some of the lowest in the country. So there's something about trying to get that message out there. In terms of the comms around Home First, you're absolutely right. Again, part of the process we're doing around Operation Flow is to try and make sure we've got a series of messages that we're sharing with not just the public, but also staff in hospitals and in our own staff. And that is very much about recognising the difference that can be made when somebody's been assessed in their own home environment versus that which is a very unfamiliar environment within a hospital setting. So absolutely it's something that we need to be pushing hard.
Thanks, Craig. I don't see any other questions. Just to say thank you for the report, and also it's very kind of positive news in terms of the GPs and increasing their accessibility over that period of time, because obviously getting access to primary care is a key area to prevent people ending up in A&E. So that's very welcome, and also note all of the other measures that are in place and ongoing, and providing the service under very difficult circumstances. So thank you for that. Do we agree to recommendation 2 in the report? Agreed. Thank you. The next item is the South Lanarkshire Children's Services Plan 2023 to 26 and the Child Poverty Commitment 2023 to 26, and that's pages 89 to 172. And could I ask Liam to speak to the reports? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. The report's to update the Committee on the South Lanarkshire Children's Services Plan and the Child Poverty Commitment. You'll see at section 3 in the report it gives the legal requirements for the Health Board and the local authority to produce a Children's Services Plan in a 3-year cycle, and the Child Poverty Scotland Act that the Health Board and local authority have to produce a local Child Poverty Action Plan annually. The section 4 gives the progress of these reports to date. You'll see at section 4 that the Children's Services Plan for 2020-2023 was signed off by the Community Planning Partnership, and there's an Appendix 1 in there for noting, and that the 2023-2026 plan was duly noted and that was signed off as well. Just to note as well, there was a joint strategic needs assessment that was undertaken that developed that plan, and there was engagement with young people and communities in prioritising or identifying the priorities, and you'll see at 4.1.3 the priorities that were identified through the community engagement. At 4.2 you'll see the Child Poverty Action Plan and the Child Poverty Commitment. What should be noted is that child poverty in South Lanarkshire is on the increase, so that shows the importance of having a commitment to address child poverty going forward. In terms of employee implications, there are none within that, but just to note as well at section 9 that there has been engagement with the children and young people and communities in the development of both these plans, and the next stage is for the Children's Services Plan is to develop a child-friendly version for the next 3 years. So it's just for note for the committee, and there's 3 appendices which show the final Children's Services Plan and the 3-year cycle going forward, as well as the Child Poverty Commitment as well for the same period. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Liam. I don't see any questions. Could I just welcome both those reports? They give a comprehensive overview of a wide range of different services and developments that are out there, and I'm very happy in terms of the kind of level of consultation that was done with young people, because I think when you actually talk to young people and consult with them, you will come up with something that will sort of better fit their aspirations and needs. I mean, across the whole spectrum, from advocacy services, mental health and pregnancy, right through to developing clearer healthy weight and mental health pathways, positive destinations, and also the Children's Champions Board. I think they are excellent forums for giving space to young people to actually listen and to hear their views and what they feel is important to them, which will often, surprise you in terms of what they come up with. And I think that it's very, very positive that we're listening to the voices of young people. And I think it's very, very well laid out in both those reports. Also, all the stuff that's going on in relation to family groups, decision making. If you read the report, you can see how all the strands come together. And I think there's some sort of very excellent and innovative work going on in the field of both child poverty and children's services. I've got a question from Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to welcome the report and particularly make note of 4.13. I think the bullet points are very well placed and will help young people with those bullet points being supported to feel loved, grow and be able to access the support and feel people are listening to them is crucial in their personal development going forward. So I welcome the paper, I welcome the bullet points, and I'm sure the people that are going to gain from that are the young people themselves.
Thanks, Mary. I don't have any other further comments. Sorry, Suman.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank colleagues across our services in terms of the work they've done to both realise what's in front of you here today, as well as the plans we have in place for going forward. I hope members of the committee appreciate the fact that your ambitions across parties in terms of addressing child poverty in particular, but also more widely improving outcomes for our young people, is matched by the commitment of officers, and also the fact that our real strength for our approach is our overall joined up approach across agencies and organisation, in a similar vein to the approach that Craig has talked about with respect to winter planning. I also, though, wanted to make a connection back to a point that Councillor Logan highlighted in respect to the winter plan discussion as it applies to here as well, which is the reality of the financial situation that we're within at the moment, so that we can't get away from the fact that will continue to challenge the work that we do, not just as a council in this space, but the work of all of our partners, the real challenges for our third sector partners within the space as well, and the really difficult decisions that we're all collectively and individually going to have to make in terms of how we can continue to do our best individually and collectively in respect of young people, the families that are part of, as we continue to move through a cost of living crisis, and how we make good on our individual and collective commitments to their ongoing improvements in terms of well-being and outcomes in the face of what are increasingly very, very significant funding challenges for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Suman. Yep, that's unfortunately the situation we are facing at the moment, so thank you for highlighting that. I don't have any further comments. Do we agree to the recommendations in section 2 of the report? Agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 12, South Lanarkshire Justice Social Work Community Payback Order Annual Report 2022 to 23, and that's pages 173 to 186. And could I ask Gillian Booth to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. I'd like to present the South Lanarkshire Social Work Justice Community Payback Report for 2022 to 2023. And really the purpose of the report is to highlight the main themes and trends from this report. It's a short report. You will see in section 4 that Community Justice Scotland will publish a summary of all the annual reports from across Scotland by 31st of March 2024. It's a short report. We're restricted by a word count for our annual report. However, the main areas that I'd like to highlight are the work that we've undertaken in our unpaid work service, most notably our Educational Gardener initiative, which has seen the creation of a working vegetable garden at unpaid work services. Why this has been particularly special for us and demonstrated a number of outcomes is that we've looked to develop our wider vision for our unpaid work service in terms of employability, mental health and actual skills that people can take forward once they've completed their community payback order. So a lot of the work that we've done in terms of growing the vegetables has contributed to service users being able to cook and make things in our kitchen learning hub. And we feel that we've helped support people in healthy living skills back in the community. I'd also like to highlight the whole systems approach service that we've got at unpaid work for 16 to 21-year-olds. This is supported by our Action for Children colleagues, in which we've commissioned a service over this period of time. They have a particular approach that's rights respecting for young people, supporting the individual needs that young people have, particularly around about supporting them, developing skills, and thinking about how they can make more positive choices going forward. There's a number of areas of work that they've undertaken in construction and catering work in the community, and most notably the Burnhill community space, where the young people have developed supporting the landscaping and soft play area. I would also just lastly, in terms of the work demonstrated, is the commissioned Road to Change programme through the Creative Change Collective service, and that's a 12-week programme where service users through creativity and arts and performance are encouraged to think about drawing on their own life experience and being encouraged to think about different approaches that they can take to their lives, and particularly thinking about confidence building and generally better life skill development. So that's aimed towards our adult service user population and is part of both supervision and community payback and unpaid work service. Lastly, I'd just like to highlight in section 6 the feedback that we've received from our service users, in which I think demonstrates the value of the relationships they have with a range of our justice staff, from our peer mentors, social work assistants and qualified social workers. After this report, if I may, I would like to play a short video that demonstrates the value of relationship practice with our service users, and this includes service users that come into our service through drug testing treatment orders, women's services and supervision and unpaid work. So in terms of the next steps in the report, I've highlighted the Alcohol and Problem Solving Court. That's obviously due to commence on Thursday this week. The committee will be familiar with the report that I presented in June around the Alcohol and Problem Court initiative, and we'll report more back on the outcomes from that in the 2023-2024 annual report. So I would just refer the committee back to the recommendations in section 2 and note the contents of this report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Gillian. I think seat 1. Seat 1.
That's not a request.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Okay, sorry about Councillor Lockhart.
Thank you, very interesting. One area which interests me, I've been hearing more about it recently, is that we have a great focus, obviously, on alcohol and drugs, but I believe one of the bigger problems now coming up is gambling and the effect that gambling is now having on families, because it takes a long time to go through 50,000 quid's worth of alcohol or drugs, but it takes about 10 minutes to get through 50,000 quid's worth of your family's entire money with gambling. And I don't know what programs we have or what we're doing, if you like, in that area. It just seems to me it's an increasing problem. You can't switch on any sport, even tiddlywinks, without somebody telling you to spend all your money in gambling. You know, it's just got to a very frightening level, and I'm just wondering where we are with that and what we do.
Thanks, Richard. Gillian, do you want to?
Thank you, Councillor Lockhart. Yes, you make a very important point there, and it is something that I think nationally social work are recognising. We do have very strong partnership links with our Money Matters colleagues, and we support people particularly who are experiencing gambling difficulties and getting into debt. Notwithstanding, we don't have a specific programme for those with gambling needs in community payback orders and justice services. But it is an area that we're considering as part of our group work programme initiative that we're going to be looking to develop later this year after our service redesign has concluded.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor McClyman.
Thanks, Chair. It's just to welcome the report. I'm really pleased to receive, and it is a short report, but that's good. I like a short report. It gets to the point, and it's really nice to hear the good news stories from the people who are using the service and from the community who are benefiting as well. And I did visit this year, I think it was, and I spoke to some of the service users, or I don't know what you call them, clients, whatever, myself, and it's encouraging to read this, and thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Catherine. Alan?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the report, Gillian. It was just earlier this year I attended with some colleagues a presentation at the Palace grounds about work done. And I think it was intimated then, and I spoke to the legal officer, that we should invite your service to come to the area committee to get a wider audience. I'm just wondering, is there any progress on that?
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor. Yes, we've got a range of visits scheduled from January to March with the committees, so that's all in hand, and that's both our fieldwork manager, Ewan Lloyd, and our operations manager, Alison Grubb, that will be in attendance for those. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any further comments. I would just like to echo the remarks that Catherine made in terms of the report, and also the positivity of the feedback. I think it's very clear the impact that those services have in people's lives when they become engaged in them. And I think that the work that's been done is really very, very positive and life affirming. Sorry, Suman, did you want to? Yes, I hadn't forgotten. No. Will we agree the report first or show the video first? I don't know. Agree to the recommendations in the report? Agreed. Thank you. I'll pass over to Gillian with the video.
Thank you, Chair.
I became first involved with the justice system when I was 15, and the police lifted me, put me in a cells, and at 4 o'clock in the morning my dad came in, let me go up me at the police cell and take me home. And after that it just spiralled out of control.
From an early age of 16, I've been involved in the criminal justice system through running about with the wrong crowd and using drugs at a very early age.
I just started running about with all the older folk thinking drinking and taking drugs and all that was cool, and kind of idolised all the young people and just followed the young people, and I ended up drugs and drink just became too much, and I ended up in care, and from there it just went downhill.
Definitely alcohol. It's always been alcohol. I've never been letting bother with the police without alcohol involved.
Drug use at an early age and the crowd that I used to run about with was no very good influences. I also used to commit crime to fund my habit.
My mum and dad, they were basically both alcoholics, man, and there was a lot of violence towards each other, you know what I mean, and it just wasn't like a family atmosphere, you know what I mean, it was just, I was like 13, 14, so it's like I was drinking every single day regardless. I said, nobody to tell me not to do it.
Playing truant for school, and like everybody says, that just glue sniffing and running about with trying to impress like older peers and doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to, and my mum and dad couldn't control me, so I ended up in foster parents, then a children's home.
I got involved with the criminal justice system after my life took a bit of a crisis. I was struggling with my mental health, really bad depression, anxiety, which led on to me abusing alcohol and other substances, which then led to me losing my career, a lot of relationships close in my life, and I couldn't cope with marriage. I ended up getting myself into a bit of a state, and my alcohol then led into me being arrested for the best of behaviours, which I think was maybe a cry for help.
It's been very positive because I'm getting the help I need now. One time I didn't want any help. I just thought I could do it all myself, but I realise now I can't do it all myself. SACRO's been a good thing for me.
For a lot more input for the social workers who I got out, like getting out of prison in the past, and I wouldn't have knew how to go and get photographic ID or where to go and get it, how to open a bank account, and that's just all the kind of things like forms. How do you fill the forms out? Where do you go to get the forms? And stuff like that people take for granted that have been out here all their life, but people getting out of prison that have been in for a long time, they just got absolutely no idea where to go or how to get that kind of stuff.
At the very beginning, because of the resentment I felt towards the services, the social work department, the police, the lawyers, anybody that was genuinely involved in my case, nothing was going to work. I just wasn't listened to. I wasn't listened to as a single female. So, but coming on from when it started till now, as you get older, you kind of learn. You kind of learn by experience that talking to people in this unequal manner as to what you want to be treated is always the best way forward. And since I've started to be open and communicate with services, it has got a lot better.
There's been a lot of positives with working with the DGTO team, as I've now gained employment. I've been off drugs for 11 months. I've got a steady relationship. I also have my own home, and for somebody to believe in you, which the DGTO team do.
It's helped me greatly, actually. It's been a lifeline that I never thought I needed, or what it would have been a lifeline. Before I was on the order, I felt very isolated. I didn't know where to turn for help, and I feel like I can turn to you guys for anything in my life, and it's good to say that.
She's always there when I need her, and she makes me positive. She makes me see a different outlook, a positive outlook. It's better than it used to be.
A lot has been different for myself, as I've already previously said. I've been clean for 11 months. I've also gained employment. I've got a steady relationship. I also have a steady house, and I've not committed any offences for over a year.
Now I feel that I'm getting a lot of support now after all these years, and it's just took too long. It's just took, but that's probably partly my fault because I wasn't allowing people in. So yeah, it's getting better, and I'm hoping things will keep improving in the future, and I'm hoping for like just opportunities that I've maybe missed or not been offered, or like just a better future. Like I said before, it's about communicating and being open and transparent with people, and then they know exactly why you have been the way you've been, or what they can give you advice as, and how to deal with things if you're not coping in the future. It's always good to be around people.
An amazing, man, and the fact that it's made me think about just not taking drugs. It's made me think about what's going to happen an hour after that, and then the next day, and then 2 days after that, and I just know everything's just spiraling out of control as soon as I start taking drugs to start with, man. And the fact that I know I can pick the phone up, man, it doesn't matter what problem I've got, he's always managed to be able to solve it.
What's your future? Not to get jailed. Stay off the drink. Stay away from the police. Stay away from the justice system. I don't like it. Take it one day at a time, sweet Jesus.
I hope to remain clean. I also hope to get contact with my daughter again and continue to be clean and live a steady life.
I'm just looking to go forward in terms of my family. I want to have a good relationship with my family because I've been a lot affected. My family when I was going through all that justice system stuff. They know me, my family know me the best out of anybody. Just looking to be settled and comfortable and hopefully just be content with what I've got.
When I was in prison, I started a degree in natural science. I'm just over halfway through it. I've been to Glasgow Uni to have a look about the university. Spoke to a professor there and already had the qualifications to be able to submit papers to go to Glasgow Uni and finish my degree in geology.
I'm looking forward to the future of being a reliable son, being a brother, being a father, being a part of society, being a part of a community, giving back instead of taking, and being happy, having a fulfilling life.
Thank you. That was really amazing. I mean, it obviously reflects the feedback that's outlined in the report, which is good, but it's really fantastic actually seeing people and hearing their stories and how they've progressed and how they're moving on with their lives, and the absolutely substantial impact that actually engaging and getting that support has on people. So that was really good to see that. I mean, at the moment we're enmeshed in so many difficult situations at the moment. It's really positive to be reminded of the good work that's going out there and the real impact that it's having. So thank you for showing that, Gillian. Is there anything else you want to?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. No, just obviously to thank our staff and our service users for, being prepared to put a lot of work in and share their experiences. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we are at item 13, Lanarkshire Care Academy update, and that's pages 187 to 192. And could I ask, is it Eileen that's going to speak to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the committee with an update on the Lanarkshire Care Academy. So members will be aware that the Social Work Resources Workforce Plan outlines the key workforce challenges across health and social care, and one of the key actions was around establishing a care academy in South Lanarkshire to promote social care as a vocation, establish routes into a career in health and social care, and also provide a framework to enable the council to grow their own workforce to address the significant workforce challenges. North Lanarkshire Care Academy was already in place and operates across the North Lanarkshire Health and Social Care Partnership, and the council agreed to link into that existing framework to create a pan-Lanarkshire approach. The Care Academy work continues to contribute to the existing plans for anchor institutions in NHS Lanarkshire and community wealth building across North and South Lanarkshire. And these approaches share the aim of using the permanent position in local communities to support the well-being of the population. And NHS Lanarkshire recently approved a 3-year anchor plan, which includes actions to build on previous work to identify target groups for employability programmes and apprenticeships, and refine the strategies to reach and recruit candidates from less representative groups. So Section 4 outlines that the terms of reference representatives from South Lanarkshire, North Lanarkshire and NHS Lanarkshire have worked together to revise the terms of reference for the Care Academy, and these will be endorsed at the steering group meeting in December. It in fact takes place on Friday of this week. Appendix 1 outlines what the vision, aims and objectives of the Care Academy are. And the following work streams will support the delivery of that vision. So work stream 1 is around attraction, recruitment and retention. Work stream 2 is pathways to care for young people, including target groups. Work stream 3 is adults pathways to care, including all target groups. And finally, work stream 4 is around funding and procurement. So Section 5 outlines what the current activity is across Social Work Resources and NHS Lanarkshire, and there are a number of programmes that will be captured under the Care Academy banner. So the South Lanarkshire Health and Social Care Partnership, the Learning and Development Group, they focus on supporting those that are already in employment in social care or in a learning pathway. And examples of activities include provision of placements in social care settings for students from South Lanarkshire College, support for newly qualified social workers through a robust induction programme. Social work students are provided with practice learning placements, and support for SVQ provision for existing employees, as well as leading on the trauma-informed practice initiatives. In addition to that, the Council's developing the young workforce programmes, that is graduate and foundation apprenticeships, both include social care options within them. And as of August of this year, there were 72 young people that commenced in health and social care graduate programmes. The employability team support routes to employments for a range of groups, and this includes pathways to health and social care, and the Council are currently supporting 41 modern apprentices in social care. And moving forward, there is a commitment for the Care Academy to collaborate in terms of modern apprenticeships in the new year, so that candidates get placements not only in social care but also within healthcare. In NHS Lanarkshire, they have engaged with local schools to promote routes into health as a career, and this includes foundation apprenticeships, and the Next Gen programme is specifically around supporting 6 pupils that are applying for medicine and promoting in-house tasters. And also their employability hub careers actively provide coaching and monthly sessions on NHS career options, employability skills, and also help with applications. And the NHS Lanarkshire have also increased the number of allied health professional placements in partnership with the University of the West of Scotland to assist students for looking for employment. And all of that, you'll see, demonstrates this breadth of work that's already underway across social work and NHS Lanarkshire to promote, attract and retain health and social care staff. It's worth noting as well that at national level, the NHS Scotland Academy is a partnership between the NHS Golden Jubilee and the NHS Education Service, offering accelerated training to widen the range of health and social care roles in professions. And there have been early discussions that have taken place with National Education for Scotland in terms of accessing materials around induction and an introduction to health and social care and training modules on aspects of care. Moving forward then for next steps, the Care Academy Steering Group will provide direction on all Pan-Lanarkshire activity under the remit of the Care Academy, and this will increase collaboration and overall effectiveness. And the work streams will continue to consolidate the existing activities in each of the areas, identify common threads and the future collaboration. And this will all coordinate towards a launch event to promote the Care Academy in the new year. So I'm referring committee back to section 2 and asking that the content of the report be noted and that the work continues to establish the Care Academy across Lanarkshire.
Thank you for that report, Eileen. I've got a question from Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. This is obviously a hugely important area, and it's maybe me in terms of my understanding of it, but I have difficulty in pinning it down, if I can put it that way. Two questions, really. Does the Care Academy actually have staff that are dedicated to this particular proposition as such, separate from other staff, if you like? And I suppose linked to that, the key point really is the difference from what there was before, if I can put it that way, in terms of the numbers and all of that. Do we have any indication of the kind of targets here, difference to what it was last year, the year before, etc., to give it a bit of a feel about how successful this important initiative is?
I'll ask Suman to respond, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'll come in on the first question, then I'll hand over to my colleague for the second. So just to clarify, so the Care Academy is an approach. So there isn't additional staff here, and I would refer back to previous discussions around the lack of money we have for lots of things at the moment. So this is about how we join up our activities. So it's about greater coordination. One of the elements that members here have challenged me and indeed other colleagues at other forums are we making the best use of the resources we've got? Are we making best use of the partnerships we've got in place? Again, a number of points today we've talked about the strength. One of the strengths of Lanarkshire, not just South Lanarkshire, but Lanarkshire is they're joined up working, our whole system working. We've taken that up through into the work here that we are putting under the banner of our Care Academy. So it is about making sure that we don't have duplication of activities, and actually we're able to bring together people within different organisations who have got similar focus within their priorities to see whether we can go further and indeed come up with new ways of working. It also means that we're able to rationalise our approaches to our wider sets of partners here, whether it be the universities in the way that's been talked about, our colleges and indeed our schools. In other words, we don't have multiple agencies all speaking to them about the same issues. So it is fundamentally about an approach rather than a funded entity. So in the same way that it's not a building, it's not a dedicated group of people, it's a new way of working, or an evolved way of working for the staff who are already within the field. You are absolutely right about the next stages, and we've talked in the past about this being a phased process. So the first phase that we've been on has been about capturing all the work that's been going on together. So everybody, all the parties are cited on the sheer breadth of activity that's underway at the moment, to identify then what are some of the areas. Councillor McClement's mentioned it. That's one of the reasons why actually doing that framework in the first stage has been so important. But I'll let my colleague come in terms of what the next stage is for years 2 and onwards.
Like I said, the steering group will coordinate all of the activity, and just as Suman has outlined, you know, it is about identifying not only commonality but also the areas that maybe work well in one area that we are not already adopting, and then we can work a bit more collaboratively moving forward. That will be under the remit of the steering group. In terms of examples of the approach and how it's working, what we do know is, you know, for example, our modern apprenticeship programme, you know, we have got examples of people that have come in our residential care units that have come in as modern apprentices and now at the enhanced senior level, which is, you know, working their way through the organisation. We've got quite a few examples of that, so we know that it works. But I think the thing is it works here in the council, but we also want to reach out wider across the community and into Lanarkshire as a whole, and that's what the vision is setting out.
Can I come back a little bit on that? I mean, I appreciate that it's an approach, and I appreciate there's a lot of good work being done before the approach, if you like, was adopted. However, the proof of the pudding at the end of the day is in the eating, and the issue really would be if we come out at the end of the day with, I don't know, twice as many modern apprenticeships or whatever to support the increased recruitment we're trying to do. So what I was really asking was, do we have sort of like targets here to sort of end up with more modern apprenticeships, and if so, how many more graduate, what's it called, graduate 8 things as well, etc., etc. So we end up with, if you like, with more recruitable staff, which is what the objective of the exercise really is.
I think it's fair to say that that kind of detail is not available at this time because that's what the steering group, you know, the first meeting of the revised steering group, as I say, only takes place on Friday of this week. But one of the key roles and remits in terms of the steering group is that idea about monitoring and activity. So part of that will be about looking at areas where there's maybe targets will be set. So I don't have the answer to that just now, but it is certainly something that's outlined in the revised terms of reference about how that activity will be monitored, including not only just the numbers but the impact as well. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Eileen. I mean, we have overall targets in terms of kind of care experience, children and young people accessing employment, and levels of attainment. So we do have, in terms of the Poverty Action Plan, for example, targets around employment and accessing employment. But I mean, I do see what you're saying. I think it would be good to have something that was specifically built around the impact of the Care Academy itself. But I would imagine there's, I mean, Eileen will correct me if I'm wrong, there's a crossover into other targets as well, where we do have these specific targets for specific groups like care experienced young people or CPOs or whatever. But yeah, I would take your point if we could pull that into something. But I mean, in terms of the stages to where we are at the moment with this, then I would imagine that would be the next part or further down the line of the process. But no, I mean, I think that's a good point. I've got Mary Donnelly, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. It was just clarity on 4.4, the evaluations and the quality indicators on 3 for adequate, 2 for weak and 1 unsatisfactory. Do we have plans to improve those figures?
Mary, I don't think you're actually on the right report. We're still on the Care Academy update, item 13.
Oh, sorry. Have I jumped? I've jumped to 14.
Okay, well, I'll come back to you when we're on to 14.
Yeah. Sorry, Margaret.
Okay.
Sorry.
Alan?
When this was first launched, we had a recruitment problem, and who can forget the video of the home help saying the elderly lady will be back at 12 o'clock, or the retired taxi driver who likes to leave them a smile on their face. And those of us who have been in the front line in home care realise that isn't what it's all about. But following that, we decided to re-evaluate our home care workers. They then get a £100 rise. We have now decided, right, they got a £100 rise, we're not giving them any more work, we're giving the work away to the private sector. What incentive is that to MD, them to go to the academy to get a job in care, when the job eventually in the home care thing has been given away to the private sector?
Alan, I'm not sure that's kind of entirely appropriate to this paper. That's another issue altogether, nor is it being fully progressed at the moment. It's under discussions within the auspices of various other groups like the IGB, so I'm not really sure that's kind of appropriate to this paper. But I mean, obviously in terms of your home care, it can be and is, a very rewarding profession, and I'm sure that's the aspect of it that we will be, kind of emphasising through all recruitment drives. But I'm not sure what you're raising in relation to that's entirely appropriate to this paper.
Chair, I'm raising the fact that home care, right, they're trying to encourage people in home care, right? And what we've done with home care, we've re-evaluated their value to this council. We've given them a rise, and in the following breath, we've told them, we're giving your jobs away. We're not replacing
Alan,
any.
I don't think that's actually kind of relevant to this discussion.
Accept your decision, Chair.
Okay,
but
thank you, Alan. I've got another request from Eileen. Sorry.
It's all right, Chair. Thank you very much. I think this is an excellent report. I am glad that it's actually here. For too long, home care and that type of service was seen sometimes by young people, or not seen by young people. They didn't understand it. They didn't comprehend, you know, that there could be a career at the end of it. And for the past 20 odd years, I have actively worked to get modern apprenticeships, not just for this that we're discussing this morning. At one time, you nearly needed a degree to be a joiner. And I've always stated, everybody isn't academic, but there's people outside who are good with their hands, who are good with, you know, various different things, but they were never getting considered for work because they couldn't produce maybe a degree. And that wasn't right, because it's horses for courses, in my view. So there has been great progress over the years to put young people into modern apprenticeships and various different things. This will, and I will continue to champion it and push it as best that I can, this will bring us out into the community of younger people, and I hope that we get to school fairs, and I hope we get out to all the people that are there. Not just that you have to be a home carer and go in and out to people. There's, well, you described it earlier, there's a massive different jobs that are sitting there, and the opportunity is there for people who might not like a school environment, but to come in, to start and work themselves up. And who knows, there could be even social workers in the future if you encourage and you get them there. So it's to guide them into the opportunities that are there and to keep our workforce, you know, up. And I think it's also to ensure that people don't think it's just a Cinderella thing, or oh, I'm not doing that because it would be this or that. So it's positive, and I think it's great. And I hope that we go from strength to strength, and that we continue to encourage people into the service, not just to see it as, well, it's a dead end, but here's the end product. If you choose, some people might just wish to stay in that part, that's fine. Some might want to progress, and that's great. But the opportunities are there, and are achievable for people outside, as I say, the school maybe environment that they don't maybe like, or they're not inclined to. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. Yep, I think that actually kind of crystallises what the Academy is all about. Elise Frame.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share my own experiences with the committee, if that's okay. I have to take time here to applaud what we're doing with the Care Academy. I started off my career many years ago when I came out of school into care with no qualifications, and through my hard work and dedication I have achieved all my qualifications and currently going to sit my exam next week for a CHAPS course for care practitioner. So I just want to show and explain to people that you can do it, and you don't have to do it through the school. If you want to put in the hard work, it is possible, and it's a very, very valued and very good employment to come into. Thank you.
Thanks, Elise, for that. I don't have any other comments, questions. And could I just also echo the comments Eileen made? I think it's a very positive report, and we'll watch with interest as to how it develops over the coming months. So do you agree to recommendations in section 2 of the report? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on then, item 14 is the Care Inspectorate updates for registered social work services, and that's pages 193 to 200. And could I ask Liam to speak to the report? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. And I'm having a psychic moment. I think there might be a question about this report. There's the report's the update to the Committee on the Care Inspectorate grades for the registered social services within social work services. It's a 6-monthly report that we agreed to bring so that there was visibility and transparency about the inspections that were taking place. Section 3 gives background to the routine of the inspections, and Section 4 says about the gradings. In relation to the recent inspections, you'll see that at Section 5, we've only had 3 within that period. Dure House was inspected in January 23, and with South Lanarkshire Council Adoption Services and the South Lanarkshire Council Fostering Services, and the grades are highlighted at Table 3 within that. You'll see that inspectors don't assess every indicator within that, and it just identifies the ones that they inspected. 5.2 identifies the outcome for Dure House, and the action we were asked to take was actually in relation to the building and the fabric, which we didn't own, but it was an action we had to take, and we'll take that on board. And at 5.3 and 5.4 it identifies the adoption service and the fostering service, and you'll see that the recommendations for improvement are the exact same for fostering and adoption, with an additional one for the fostering service, which was about addressing drift and delay within the service and registering the continuing care. Section 6 highlights the Health and Care Staffing Scotland Act, which is enacted in 2019 and comes into force on the 1st of April 2024. And it's just to make sure that the committee are aware of that, because that will have staffing implications, because there will be a requirement to ensure that there's safe staffing in these establishments going forward. The appendix gives a visual or a visualisation of the grades, and you'll see that there's a grades guide as well that's associated with that. We are in a fortunate position at the moment because we seem to be doing really well, but you'll see within that as well that the care inspector haven't got round to a full scale of investigation and scrutiny at this stage. Just to point out as well, because it's been asked, some of the inspections will be from some time ago. It's from 2017 onwards. The care inspectors do the inspections based on a risk matrix, and it's a risk model. So where they think or feel that there's areas that need inspecting, they'll come in and inspect more regularly. But where there's ones that they feel that are performing well, they feel there's not a need, and it'll be a lighter touch approach. And they'll take those indicators from reportable incidents, adult protection, child protection, or complaints that will be received within those services. So it's for the committee for noting, and it's to show a bit of transparency of the inspection regime for the registered services within the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Liam. I've got Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'm obviously Liam's psychic moment. Yet 4.4, I take on board. I think it's a very, very good report from the inspectorate. But again, I think follow-ups are needing done for the number 3 being adequate, 2 weak and 1 unsatisfactory, and what's the plans to improve on that? Thanks, Liam.
Thanks.
Councillor Donnelly, the table at 4.4 is just an indicator of the valuations, and I suppose if you look at the table at table 3 at 5.1, that shows the grades that came out of the inspections that took place in Dure and the South Lanarkshire. In relation to any grade that we currently get, what we've got a duty to do with the care inspector is to provide an action plan and an improvement plan, and that's a requirement. So we've usually got within 6 weeks to do that for the care inspectorate, and that's produced for the care inspectorate. They will then use that as a tool to come back and do either a light touch or a more intense inspection. So every time we get a grade, even if it's a good grade, we always have to show improvement within that, and we'll identify areas that we need to improve. But table 4.4 is an indicator of the grades and how they'll assess us, but actually table 3 shows the grades that we achieved in those inspections.
Right. Thanks, Liam.
Thank you. Alan?
Thanks, Chair. I'll try to keep in the parameters of the report. Page 195, Dure House, the inspectorate. As you can see, there are 4 very good comments and 1 good. Now, I'm not want to preempt the consultation and the so-called independent advisory committee's decision, but recalling back, the last time we shot 2 homes, which had a similar inspection report very high, The private homes round about that locality had all bad reports, and 2 of them were subject to moratoriums. Have we done any inspection of the homes round about Dewar House and McClyman if the decision is to eventually close them, so that we wouldn't be putting elderly people who we have a duty of care to in a compromising situation? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Suman.
So I'll hand over to Liam for the specifics in terms of the Care Inspectorate process, because, as you know, it's the Care Inspectorate that inspects registered services, not us. Just to be clear in terms of the process, so it's not a so-called independent advisory panel, it is an independent advisory panel. I'm pleased to highlight the report gradings in front of you here today, and you're right to kind of highlight those gradings for Dewar House in particular. I do want to take the point, though, in terms of context. That doesn't happen by magic. So that's a product of the staff, you've recognised in the past, Alan, and you give credit to them within those registered services, the registered managers for those services, senior colleagues who are with this room today, and frankly also senior officers who sit in this room in front of you today. It doesn't happen by magic. At the same time, our ability to pay for things, we can't magic money up either. Hence why we have to go through the processes that we're going through at the moment. As you said, though, and you're quite right, when it comes to individuals who are residents within registered care homes, we have a duty of care. We have a duty of care whether they reside within homes that we directly manage ourselves, or indeed we have a duty of care for those who reside in independently owned facilities as well, all of whom are inspected by the Care Inspectorate, because again, the Council is not the inspectorate body for that. I'll hand over to Liam in terms of the process that we would go through in the event that any care home would go to closure, whether it's one as a result of a decision that's made through the IGB or others, or indeed, as we've seen in other parts of Scotland, that decisions have been taken by the operators of care homes. So I'll hand over to Liam on that basis.
Thanks very much, Suman. But probably just to say, Councillor Faulkner, that I think you're right. I think we should celebrate the staff, and we should acknowledge the hard work that they do within the care homes, and that's always the position we would want, whether it's a home that's identified for a consultation for closure or not. Probably just to highlight as well that within the fostering and the adoption services, they've scored very well within that, and as a council we hold our own when it comes to any registered service nationally, and we do that. We don't inspect other care homes, we leave that to the Care Inspectorate to do, but what we do is we get sight of every inspection that the Care Inspectorate undertake. That comes to myself as the Chief Social Work Officer, so I'm aware of any inspection, and if there's any actions that we need to take locally, because we commission any provider, then we would do that through our commissioning service and through our case managers at a locality. We would leave it at that, so it's not our job to inspect other care homes, but we would make it transparent, and the Care Inspectorate process is transparent for any member of the community to make a choice if they wanted to go to a private provider or an in-house provider.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Okay.
Liam, it's just on Suman's point there. When I mentioned the advisory panel, I was at one of the public meetings the other night, and I was shocked to hear when we were talking about the independent advisory panel that the Lanarkshire Carers Centre are on that panel. Now, who funds the Lanarkshire Carers Centre? As my old granny used to say, who pays the piper calls the tune. We fund the Lanarkshire Carers Centre, and I've seen it in another instance with the daycare review. Lanarkshire Carers Centre put an objection, then they must have got a phone call, withdrew that objection. We're funding that organisation, and then we're saying they're independent. They're no independent, they're funded by us, as is the workers. Thank you.
Craig.
Thank you. So, just to reiterate what I said on Monday evening, the Independent Advisory Panel has been set up to provide a range of voices which are seen to be independent of the IGB. Funding for carers comes through a number of different routes. It doesn't just come through money that is funded through ourselves, and in the main, the funding is routed directly from Scottish Government through us. It's not that we specifically pay them. We're using money that is funded from Scottish Government. And believe me, the Lanarkshire carers are very strong in making their voice heard and indeed representing the views of carers. So what we have sought to do is that we've got carers' voices as part of that panel. We've also got groups that have got an interest in older people, like Seniors Together. We've also got representatives of the Health and Social Care Forums across each of the localities, as well as it being chaired by the chair of the Health and Social Care Forum. And there's a number of other folks involved in that as well. And we'll put that out on the website. Again, I would just want to reiterate the role of that panel. That panel will not take any decision about the future of any of the services that are being considered as part of the Sustainability and Value Programme to recognise the over £20 million deficit in funding that we've got. The remit of the panel is that we would share with them the consultation process that we would look to undertake. We would get from them a view as to whether that is sufficient in terms of its reach and inclusivity, and we will reflect that and revise it to make sure that it is commensurate with what they think is a reasonable way forward. We would also share with them the equality impact assessment, such that we are getting an independent view as to the inclusivity of that. And having undertaken the consultation, we will produce a report. We will share that report with that panel and ask the panel if they think that meets the criteria that we agreed at the outset with them. And that report from the panel would then go to the IGB, such that the IGB had a consultation process that somebody has said, yes, we think that is an appropriate level of consultation to do. It is for the Integration Joint Board to make any decisions. The advisory panel is just that. It's advising on the consultation. It will not be making any decisions.
Okay, thanks, Craig. I've got Eileen waiting to come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. I am going to take a step back and kind of just make it generic. I think it's very sad that this morning we are sitting discussing something that no one ever would have liked to have had to sit here and discuss. When it comes to people's lives, people's daily life, their family's life, whatever, who would have thought even 2, 3 years, 10 years ago that we would be sitting discussing people in residences that we now cannot or might not be able to afford. I think it's a disgrace that we do not have the sufficient funds or are going to be given sufficient funds to run the business that we would like to run. We've heard it right through. Every theme this morning has come through that we've had to adjust services, we've to change services, we've to make do and mend some of the services, different work practices, everything. And it all comes down to an insufficiency of funds. That's the bottom line. No one in the right mind ever got up in the morning and thought, come on, we'll shut this or that or the other. Nobody at all. We are sitting in a situation, in my view, unprecedented, and one which gives no pleasure to anybody to have to even sit, contemplate it, write reports or discuss. And it's purely and simply coming down to funding. I think if anybody looked at the executive papers last week and had a look at what might be the possible cutbacks that we will need to make, we are now even at a stage where, for our own services, where we will need to look at not even just putting prices up by inflation, but we need to sometimes have to put prices up to match what would be the cost, the exact cost of running whatever particular service that we want to run. I have said it before, and I'm going to put it in record. I'm a company woman. I would have everything 100% council. I don't shy away from it. That's my view, and I know it can't happen. But if somebody asked in an opinion, what do you think? I would have everything, absolutely everything in-house. And you're quite right, whoever said, I think it was yourself, Director, who said our adoption and fostering services, our various different things. Everybody who works with them, and I know my colleague Catherine here, she's actually in the adoption and fostering panel, and I know how hard these meetings are, and I know it's quite draining, and I know it's very intense, but we do it, and we do it to the best of our ability. So we can talk as we like. I know that we have the best staff. I know, be it, you know, administration, be it the field workers, be it whatever. Absolutely no doubt about that. 100% no doubt about that. And as I say, I would have 100% if I could get my way to keep it all in-house. But we have to come back down to it is the lack of government funding to our services that are causing the problem. And I said it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again. I am not, this time, trying to defend or take it to myself. I'm going to publicly just tell people that is what is happening. It is no pleasure to sit in an IJB. Margaret will probably confirm that with me. It's awful. And it's terrible what we have been placed to look at. And that is the whole sum and substance. Give us the money and we'll do the job. No problem whatsoever. And we can do it to the best of our very ability. And it's a sad, sad state of affairs, but that is the affair that we're stuck with. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. I'd just like to echo those comments put so well by Eileen in terms of the situation around the funding and some of the issues that the IGB will be facing over the coming months. It's not something that any of us looks forward to. And also to thank Liam for the report and to acknowledge, obviously, the high standard in terms of the services that people are providing for the most vulnerable people in our society, and acknowledge the actual EU assessment scores in this report, which are very, very high, very positive in most cases. I don't have any other comments or questions, so do we agree to recommendation 2 in the report? Agreed, thank you. I don't have any items of urgent business, so could I just thank members for their attendance and their very valuable contributions to the reports, and to thank the officers for the reports, which are very comprehensive and excellent as usual. And thank you to Stuart for guiding me through this as always. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillors for the cards.